I'm about to show you the exact system I use to turn my paycheck into property. The first time I followed it, it helped me fund my first rental property. And the second time I followed it, it gave me the security I needed to weather a layoff without panicking. This is the most effective system I've used for building financial freedom as a corporate professional, and I want to share it with you guys today. I call it the cash kit, and it's 4 steps. The 4 steps of the cash framework that I created are climb, allocate, secure, and harness. And each of these 4 steps build on each other. And I'm going to walk you through my story, and I'm going to walk you through this cool Notion template that I created to help you track where you are in the framework, apply it to your own personal life, and really see yourself make some progress. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, now you are looking at the cash kit that I created. It's a Notion template. I love Notion, and my whole life is in Notion right now. I'm going to walk you through the cash kit. I'm going to walk you through my story, do some live demonstration, and really break this thing down about how I use this system to take me from zero rental properties to almost 90 doors of rental property. The 4 steps of the cash framework are climb. And this is where we want to focus on growing your career and your income. The second step is allocate, where you redirect a part of your paycheck instead of letting lifestyle creep take over, instead of not knowing and tracking where your money is going. And this is how you really come up with that money that you have available to you to invest. The third step of the framework is secure, and this is where you can buy your first rental property, scale to multiple rental properties using numbers and not guesswork. And then harness, this is the best part. This is where your investments start to pay for your lifestyle, like covering your mortgage, replacing your salary, and that's when you really start to feel the freedom and flexibility that most corporate professionals are looking for. And each step, it's important to know that each step builds upon each other. I'm going to walk you through each one. I'm going to walk you through my own story. So let's look at the first section here, which is climb. This is ground zero because unfortunately, if you don't make enough money to pay your bills and have a little bit extra, building wealth is really, is going to be an uphill battle for you. I want to share a little bit about my story and show you how it can be used in this area of the cash kit. So, my first job was actually an engineer, and my first salary was $52. I did not even negotiate. I made a huge mistake, right? I just took the money. They made me an offer. It was more than anybody in my family was making, and they were like, take it. So, I took the job, didn't negotiate. I don't even remember what bonus I was making, but let's just say it was 10%. Let's just say I got 5,000. So we're just gonna estimate that my, take home salary from my first job was, oh, I wrote that over. Let's see, 5,000 for bonus, and then let's just estimate that I did 57,000 total from that job. So my first mistake was not negotiating. I had nothing to compare it to. My living costs were 0, so I took whatever they gave. But I think, and as I'll continue on to talk through my story, but I speak to some people and they don't even actually know what they make. Let's say if you've been at a job for, 4 or 5 years, you probably remember your initial offer, but because your raises have probably been, 1 to 2%, it's been so minor, you actually probably don't know how much you really make. So it's like, go into your HR system, get your actual number. Be very clear about that. Because once you know that number, then you can start to determine what is my next milestone? What am I aiming for? A lot of people don't negotiate and then they don't look for new jobs and they don't keep up with the market, the job market to know, maybe you were being paid a certain amount 2 years ago, but the job market has changed. And maybe that your same position now, maybe you could make 10,000, $15,000 more, but because you're not paying attention, you would never know that. So that's when you see these numbers, it gives you a reason to go say, hey, what is happening in the market? So I would by all means recommend that. And then I have some other kind of prompts here to help you. Is like, say you want to make more. And I have this example as well. So before I get into what to do next, right? So I'll just say random jobs. Random jobs. I took several other random jobs And I think I ended up topping out at like 80. I don't know, $80,000. Let's say this is over like a course of like maybe 5 to 7 years, and I job hopped, right? I did not stay anywhere longer than 2 years. So as I'm job hopping, I'm like, "Oh, I was making 57. Well, let me try to make 65," or, just insert random. I don't remember. It was kinda long ago, but I just took random jobs and I kept moving myself, little by little, but I don't think I was actually paying attention to how little I was moving. Like even just this example, I've actually never ran this number, but let's see if this was in fact true. I went from 57 to 80. That's 23,000 over the course of 7 years or so. Let's just call it 8 years. That is only $3,000 a year. It looks decent in this spreadsheet, but that's only $3,000 a year, and, like, we all know that is nothing, right? And this is before tax. So if I was only making $3,000 extra a year, it was essentially 0 after taxes. So that's another reason you gotta keep track of stuff like this because, otherwise you kinda just get lost. Where I was going with next was that, I got to this point. I was like, I've had several jobs. I still don't feel like I'm making enough money. So I'm like, I'm going to get an MBA. I wanted to go get an MBA right out of undergrad. Um, but for whatever reason, that didn't work out. So I was like, let me get some job experience and then I'll go get the MBA. So now I've had about 3 jobs. I've got about 8 years of work experience. Perfect time to go get the MBA. So I answered that question. What skill and certification could help me climb? I'm like, oh, I'm going to go get an MBA. My salary is going to skyrocket. Well, that did in fact happen. So after my MBA, I became an engineering manager. And that took my salary. I'm not going to give exact figures, but the total comp was over 200K. And that was because I'm now playing a totally different game, right? I have salary, I have bonus, I have stock, I have all kind of other stuff baked into the cash that I have available to me. So the MBA worked for me. I know it doesn't work for everybody, but the point is, if there's something if there's a skill or certification that will help you climb, at least know what that is and know the impact. A lot of people are getting skills and certifications that will not help them climb. This is another way that you can use this to help you, right? Don't go get a certification that's not going to help the bottom line. This was kind of my money outlook for a while. And then I actually, even after I got that big salary jump, I decided I wanted to move cross country. I wanted to move to a totally different uh, coast. So then my next job, I think, was some sort of, I don't know, I wasn't a program manager yet, but it was a hybrid between, now I can't think of the role, but it was something like technical business liaison or something like that. Not even important, but I was took some other job on a different coast. And I actually ended up taking a pay cut. So now let's say my salary is down to 170, right? But this again is why this is important to track because once you know what you're actually making and you can factor in all of your taxes and you look at what was I actually bringing home, when I ran that calculation, I was actually bringing home more money on the other coast at a lower salary. So pay cuts aren't always bad, but you have to know your numbers exactly. So that's pretty much my money story. And I hope I've given you a lot of examples of why it's important to know your money story. But in the quest of building wealth, this is just ground zero. This is just the first step in understanding your money story and how to manipulate it. The second step in the cash framework is allocate. And that's where we are going to redirect our income, right? Now that we know what our income is, now we want to take a look at where is our money going. And I have personal experience with this as well, because even as a high 6-figure earner, there were still times where I felt like I wasn't making enough money. And so at that point, you need to step back and it's like, where is my money going? I think the challenge that a lot of corporate professionals make, like once you start making over, I don't know, maybe 140, once you start making over 140, most people stop budgeting, most people stop tracking, and you're just swiping the card because there's always enough. Like, that was my experience. It was just always enough money in the account. You just swipe the card. I don't know what I'm spending. But when you want to shift your mindset from being a consumer to being a creator of wealth, you have to know where your money is going so that you can reallocate it into avenues that will grow for you, as opposed to just, being a consumer and your assets depreciating. This section of the kit will allow you to see exactly where your money is going. And I actually just used this recently. I found 1,000 extra dollars in my budget. Like, just recently, I was spending money on, house cleaning, laundry. I even have a hair membership. So I went through all of my memberships, all of the lifestyle. I went through all of my lifestyle expenses and audited them. What could I cut back? What do I really not need anymore? What am I not even using anymore? And then I went through my essentials to see, what is actually still essential. So let's just take an example here. Um, let's say, just average salary, I think let's just I'll just use the number I used, about 140 or 150. I think that's about $8,000 a month. So we're gonna, and I think that's after taxes. And I always like to use numbers after taxes because before taxes, that money's not even yours. So why even look at it, right? And that's kind of like with my tenants when approve applications, right? I don't care what they make before taxes. I care what hits their bank account because that is the money that's available to pay me with. Everything else is just fake money as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so I filled in each of these columns with your monthly income, your after taxes is how much you have in your bank account. And then I just use some broad categories, right? For essentials, should be about 50% of what you're making. Savings, 20%, investments, 20%, and then lifestyle, 10%. That makes up your entire 100% of what you're making. Now, you may have some other categories, right? And so you can feel free to add them here. Maybe you have a medical expense. Maybe you have a hobby column. I mean, insert whatever you do, you can only spend 100% of your money. So, let's just make up some numbers here and see how everything shakes out. Now, I'm not going to make what I spend fit into the percentage. I'm going to put in what I'm actually spending and see what percentage that is. But I am making these numbers up just for an example. Let's say your living expenses are 3,200, looking pretty good there. You're at 40%. Savings, most people, let's just say you're saving 10%. That's actually only $800. So let's say you're saving $800 every month. It's going to some account that you don't see. Um, and then investments, most people are at zero. I don't want you to include 401k here because that should be taken out before this value here, right? So you might actually have an investment column that is basically phantom money. It's not here on this sheet. You may be investing $1,000 a month into your 401k, and then you may be getting a match from your employer. However, that money is not readily available to you. We want to talk about where your cash is going. So you may not be investing anywhere. Let's just, keep it there. Or maybe you have a stock account on the side and you put $500 in it. Okay, let's go there. Lifestyle, for most people, without realizing it, their lifestyle is well over 2,500 a month. Easy. And that's with, like I mentioned, memberships out the wazoo, DoorDash, Uber, like all the things that we just swipe our card and do without thinking because we need it at the time. It really adds up. So, just in this example, I believe this person is overspending. Let's see. I think this person is overspending, um, because we got 50, 31, no, 81, and then no, they're not overspending. They still have some extra. They still have some extra. However, this is kind of ridiculous, right? You might want to reallocate some of this. So I'm like, look at my lifestyle, right? Do I really need to spend $2,500 a month? And this is money in the trash. You never get it back. And so if you're on the path to wealth, you really want to flip these, right? You want your trash number to be low and your investment number to be high. Sometimes you can't control your essentials. If you live in a high cost of living area, it all depends. Sometimes this number is what it is. And your savings, this is probably used for your emergency funds. So it's recommended that you have 3 to 6 months of emergency funds. I wouldn't want to combine the savings with the investment money because when you take that investment money out and do something with it, now you have no savings. And if something happens with your employment, you have nothing left. So you do want to keep those separate. So this is all to show that we really need to swap these two if we're on a path to wealth. So that's an exercise you can take on your own and hopefully see something better there. Now, here's where it gets interesting, right? Now we get to the secure part of the framework, which is where we invest in real estate. I'm a proponent of investing in real estate. I do understand there are millions of other investment vehicles, but I have been investing in multifamily real estate for over 7 years. It has helped me weather layoffs. It has helped me weather all sorts of financial instability. And I 10 out of 10 do recommend. So I created this very quick and dirty deal analyzer. A lot of people don't make investments because they don't understand the numbers, assume they can't afford it. They allow fear to take over. I always love when someone says, I could never afford to do that, but they don't even know how much it costs. So I like looking at things in black and white, looking at the numbers. You can't refute the numbers, right? Deal is in the numbers, not in the feelings, right? So this keeps us out of our feelings. So I have some sample data here, but I actually want to walk through a real deal with you guys today. And so I popped over to Zillow. I searched for multifamily because that is what I believe in. Single family is great and it's fine, but the return on investment is slightly lower. And I have other content about that if you're interested in why I chose which one. But popped over to Zillow, found some multifamily. This is near Nashville, Tennessee. I just randomly typed it in. I do not invest in Nashville, but I just wanted to see what was going on there. So popped over to Zillow. They had a ton of things came up. This one pulled up just fine. It looks like a house, an old house that at some point when it was built, they broke it up into different units. And this says it is for 300,000, 8 beds, 4 baths. The unit says each unit is 2 bedroom, 1 bath. La di da di da. They have pictures, all of that. So I would just comb through here and see what's important here. What's important here is that how long it's been on the market. Looks like they haven't been able to sell it this year. Not a red flag because interest rates and everything are high and people are being very cautious. What's important here is Zillow already tells you how much it's going to cost. So Zillow is estimating about $1,700 for you to be the owner of this 4 unit apartment building. So the next thing I need to know, let me go ahead and type those numbers in before I forget. So what was that address? We're just going to call it 322 Emmett. 322 Emmett. And that was Nashville. I'll just put that there. And then so the purchase price was we're just gonna call it 300,000. And so the down payment, usually as an investor, you're going to do 20%. You do have other options. You can work with your lenders. You may be able to get that down to 10%, sometimes 5%. But let's just stick with the industry standard here. So that down payment will be 60,000. And then now we need to figure out the rent potential. I again went to Zillow, went to the rental tab because in Zillow you can either do buy or rent. Went to the rental tab and found something comparable, right? Look at this. It looks like the same. It's a house. It's got, the basics, nothing fancy, right? They're saying that for in that neighborhood, you can get 1,100 a month for a 2 bedroom, 1 bath, right? and this is just, standard. You could get more, right? There's probably some opportunity here to maybe up the rent a little bit. I'd have to really get in there to see. But here's what they're saying. They're saying they get 1,100 a month and $800 security deposit, and they're just telling you what they require. It's been on the market 24 days and 14 people have inquired about it. That means it's a healthy market here. People are looking to rent. So let me pop back over and add that value. So basically at $1,100, we're going to use that number times 4. That puts us at 4,400, right? So now we're at 4,400 a month rental potential. And Zillow also told us that it was going to be 1,700 a month in mortgage costs. Now, for the expenses, I do have a quick and dirty calculation here. For a full deal analyzer, I do make that available to my community. But for today, I just did a percentage estimate of what the expenses would be. And down here, you can see I share what some of those expenses might entail. This is totally up to you. This number can change. But just for average, this big property is saying that it will cash flow $1,800 a month. I will take that. Okay. It's saying the ROI is 7% and the cash on cash is 36.4%. Cash on cash is what you're really worried about because it's telling you your return based on how much money you put out. You came out of pocket 60,000. That means every year you're making 36% on your money. I'm going to make this an offer, right? I'm going to contact my agent and I'm going to try to buy this building because it looks excellent. Now I go into more detail, right, about how to purchase buildings, how to find diamonds in the rough, how not to buy lemons, all of that. I go in more detail about that in my community, but this is just to show you. If I want to secure an $1,800 a month cash flow property, I need to come up with $60,000. That might sound like a lot, but I also talk about other ways to come up with your down payment in my community. However, now that you have run your numbers, 60,000, you scroll back up to the allocate, and this is where you really play with your numbers. You're like, I can't afford 2,500 for lifestyle. I need I need 2,500 right here. I need 2,500 in my investment column so that I can calculate how long is it going to take me to get to 60,000. Now, this is just your take home. This is not your bonus. This is not any extra money you can figure out how to come up with, right? But this is how you chart a path to making $1,800 month after month after month with very little effort on your part. Now, so lever 1 is changing your investments. Lever 2, maybe I need to make more money so that I have more money for the investments. So, as you can see, all the areas of the framework, they really flow together. Um, you can see how this can multiply very quickly and how it could potentially change a lot about your life. And then I don't want you to be afraid about the down payment. Some of the ways I came up with down payments, partnerships, bonuses, cash out stock. I've even taken money out of my 401k. There was a time when I was unemployed. I've actually been laid off twice. I was unemployed and there was a property I wanted to buy. I took the money out of my 401k to do it. And because it was around COVID-19, I filed a hardship and I didn't pay any taxes on that money. So I am a proponent of, your future is up to you. And I don't think you should play by anybody else's rules about, oh, I'm not supposed to touch that money. If you're touching it to, um, help your future self, I'm all for it, right? Don't touch it if you are only using it for lifestyle and it's going to be money in the trash. Not a fan of that. But do what you have to do. So that is the way I was able to come up with a bunch of money to take myself from 0 rental properties to 90 plus doors. Now we will move on to the last part of the framework, which is harness. You know, now that I'm making $1,800 a month with this property, what am I going to do with it? This is when people start to talk about freedom and flexibility and early retirement and all of these things. So harness, I have some examples here, right? Maybe your first step is to cover your mortgage, and that was mine, right? The first step was we got to make enough money to cover our mortgage. You'd be very surprised what covering your mortgage will do. So let's just look at this example. So let's say we bought this property, we're now making $1,800 a month. Well, now we get to come back up here to our essentials, and now our essentials are no longer $3,200 a month. They are 3,200 minus 1,800. Now my essentials are only $1,400 a month. So now I have way more money to play with. I can put more in investments. I can do something with my lifestyle. I have options now. And that's what it's important to show that like working through the cash framework gives you options that you simply do not have if you're only relying on your salary that somebody else controls 100%. So this is one of my favorite parts of the framework, and I love it because you are actually charting your freedom here, right? Like, what does it look like for you? If you need to replace your salary, when can you do that? It really helps you make a plan. What I've learned is that if you don't write it down, it won't happen. And if you are not reviewing what you wrote down, you're not going to make any progress toward making it a reality. Once you start reviewing your goal, you're going to start holding yourself accountable. You're going to start seeing if you're making progress or you not. Maybe you want to change the goal. All of that is fine, but write it down and know. And what I think is cool is you can start putting these things down and you get to know, you get to realize that like, wow, if I use my real numbers, like I probably haven't paid a mortgage in 5 years. So that's, if I just go back to 2020 here, I had this milestone, this personal milestone for myself, and then I can continue on. So when do I want to retire? Maybe I want to retire in 2035, which is 10 years from now. You put this number in, and then you can run some numbers. It's like, how much do I need to make? Right? How much money do I need to replace to be in a position for this to even be possible? That tells you how many properties you need, right? Investments, however you make your investment money, that tells you how much you need. So every area of the framework builds upon each other. The entire goal is to help you create your own path to freedom, not relying 100% on your employer. I'm a fan of having a job, but I'm not a fan of relying on them 100% and giving them all of your power. This helps you do that. This helps you weather economic uncertainty. This puts the power back in your hands. So, the kit isn't just about numbers; it is about clarity. And once you have the clarity, you see the path clearly. You can walk it with confidence. So, if you are ready to put this into action, you're like, I know I need this. I've been completely ignoring my money and where it's going. I really need to make a change this year. Go ahead and grab your copy. The link is below in the description. And if you'd like ongoing support, I will also drop the link to the corporate landlord community below. You can join for free today. And if you come this far, thank you so much for watching. My name is Jerry. I'm the founder of the corporate landlord. Go ahead and do me a favor, leave me a comment below letting me know your favorite takeaway and what you are going to implement as soon as you get your cash kit. Talk soon.